Hello everyone, welcome to Fablehaven Age of Wonders 4. The third dev diary for the Giant Kings expansion has arrived, and today it is all about the feudal culture rework in the free update accompanying said expansion. As always, in the description down below I'll leave a link to the dev diary if you'd like to read it for yourself, and the dev stream if you would like to watch it for yourself, which is what the second half of this video will be all about. There was a wide variety of things shown off today as they tackled the mid-game. Early mid-game. So, without further ado, greetings, Giant Kings, and other more respectable Gaudier. I am Thomas, designer at Triumph, and today I get to share with you the details of the rework of our oldest culture, Feudal. Alongside the release of Giant Kings on April 1st, we are, as always, releasing a free update to the game alongside it. The Ogre update, which features improved underground, lava gameplay, more options for your faction creation, and most importantly, for this particular development diary, a rework of the feudal culture. She looks beautiful. Queen Leanne is not to be trifled with. Okay, maybe a little as a treat. It looks good. Is this the new armor they added? It could be. Why feudal? So why did we choose feudal to be the next priority to update? It is the oldest culture, made at the start of Age of Wonders 4 development, when our style and the implied power level of cultural units wasn't really laid down as strongly yet. Peasants started looking a bit odd sharing their tier with Dawn Defenders and other more professional unit themes. Strategically, they had very little going for them. At release, they had the feudal lord hero skills, which gave them a bit of an identity, but didn't really do much in the grand scheme of things. This was made even more glaring after the hero rework, which left no space for these old skills to be made available. Lastly, the fantasy of a feudal empire was not really satisfied. No noble lords leading their house to war, and not enough cavalry or classical feudal associated units. The goal then is to rework feudal into a culture that can work as a solid, uncomplicated starting point, but also give enough for veterans and players who seek to go into that particular flavor something to sink their teeth into. To achieve this, we have split feudal into two subcultures. Monarchy, where the ruler is absolute, an uncomplicated culture ideal for beginners that rewards keeping things simple, benefiting a playstyle focus on the ruler's army and defense. An aristocracy where each of your empire cities is host to a noble house, led by its governor, which each field cheap and effective armies under their banners. I will tell you about these in detail further below, but first we must speak of the characteristics they share, the feudal culture as a whole. The feudal culture represents the more mundane type of empire. It covers the classic fantasy trope of the more grounded kingdoms as compared to the magic and otherworldliness around them. Thus, to start with, we identified the key aspects of the feudal fantasy. What are their associations? The king's divine right to rule, the feudal system's reliance on lesser lords and their levied armies, and cavalry, knights, and bannermen charging in to battle. When designing the culture's rework, we sought to ensure we could effectively represent these three fantasies in gameplay and theme. The unit lineup of the feudal culture has seen some pretty significant changes to accommodate these new themes. Perhaps most notably, their old passive effect, Stand Together, was removed, in favor of the benefits both subcultures grant their units based on their monarch or their liege lord. Stand Together was very powerful. You pretty much always wanted to just be in a giant brick, unbreakable, and, take the form traits associated with it. Stand Together worked in the sense that it created a specific type of gameplay, one where formations are vital to success. It, however, also had flaws. It made choosing form traits, that grant other adjacency benefits, a no-brainer, and it was easy to accidentally lose the bonus by moving units in the wrong order. Most importantly, it runs counter to the behavior one would expect or desire of a cavalry-focused culture, requiring the player to move their cavalry into melee range, send a second unit adjacent to them before attacking with their charged cavalry unit to get the maximum benefit. I gave up doing that a long time ago. Way too lazy. For the units, Feudal had a unique feature in their Tier 1 peasant units, who evolved into Tier 2 defenders upon reaching max rank, a clunky feature that could throw people off, as the unit's role would change between evolutions. Very true. Moreover, we judged that the concept of a peasant of all things evolving into effectively the noble warrior class was simply counter to the very essence of the feudal system. But as the gameplay implications were interesting, we reworked into something more natural and controllable: promotions. These are contained within the new aspirant traits, which function similarly to evolve, but with two key differences. First, they do not benefit from effects that modify evolution. They are not evolving, after all. And they require a particular condition to be met before they are able to promote into the higher tier units. The Aspirant Knight trait letting the Aspirant Knights perform into full Knights. It would have been funny if they called them Squires, because that's basically what Squires were, but I understand why they went with this. So, for the unit lineup, Militia, formerly known as the Peasant, the Humble Serf. A Tier 1 polearm unit, Militia are weaker than most Tier 1 units, but extremely cheap to maintain and obtain. Do they have no upkeep? I thought they had like a 1 gold upkeep. Not able to be recruited in cities, but rather summoned through a strategic spell that creates 2 militia in the target-owned city. A great way to get a new army up and running, or to scramble defense. Their visuals got updated as well to grant them a little more in the way of armor, representing their role as militia to fill out your ranks. The Scout is unchanged, remaining an uncomplicated scouting unit. I don't remember what the unique Feudal Scout does. I have no idea. The Defender is now a Tier 1 unit, fulfilling the role of a primary frontline combatant for the feudal cultures. They retain their heavy shield passive, ensuring they remain a stalwart, simple shield unit to keep the enemy at bay. For the aristocracy subculture, the Defender has the Aspirant Liege Guard property, allowing them to be promoted into the Tier 3 Liege Guard unit when reaching maximum rank, and the appropriated structure is built in the Empire. The Defender also has gained the optional Cavalry, letting them function as an early mounted unit for cavalry-focused builds. The Archer is a mainstay of the feudal culture. The baseline range unit all others vary from. They have gotten a slight buff to help them fulfill a more synergistic role with the cavalry. Their attacks now inflict sundered defense, ensuring that the follow-up charge of the nobles will hit all that much harder. For the monarchy subculture, the Archer has the Aspirant Longbow property, allowing them to be promoted into the Tier 3 Longbow unit when reaching maximum rank, and the appropriate structure is built in the Empire. They saw their first longbow in the dev stream yesterday now. I slept through the whole thing. I hibernated for a while, sorry. Tier 2, the Bannerman, has long been an excellent support unit. AoE buffs provided it a powerful niche, though the way it functioned incentivized stacking up early to spread the buff, rather than being mobile as a cavalry culture would wish to be. Thus, a rework on them was necessary, but in a way that seeks to retain their name, their theme. Their Bannerman has a new passive effect, War Banner. All adjacent friendly units gain +1 defense and +1 resistance. The effect does not stack. This ensures the Bannerman is a constant benefit to the unit it joins to the front line, and though this effect does not stack with other Bannermen, it does stack with the benefits of defense mode, warding. Its abilities got rolled into a singular low cooldown touch range heal. This can be used every other turn, even while engaged, healing the target, improving morale, and putting the Bannerman in defense mode, making them an even more effective anchor for their adjacent allies. +25 hit points and +10 morale. Yeah, pretty good. Lastly, the Bannerman has gained the optional Cavalry trait, letting them follow the cavalry charge closely should you wish to lean into the cavalry theme even harder. The Aspirant Knight. They look familiar, mostly retaining the look of the old feudal Tier 3 Knight. The Aspirant Knight is instead a Tier 2 shock cavalry unit with some unique benefits over other shock units, leaning into more of a skirmishing role than a full knight would. Aspirant Knights have exceptionally high damage for their tier, but they function best against isolated targets. Isolation Slayer means that their damage is reduced if they strike non-isolated targets, while Slippery gives them the ability to reposition rapidly and seek out those isolated targets. Yes, the Isolation Slayer is -6 damage. And here is the Aspirant Knight tag. As the name implies, the Aspirant Knight uniquely are able to promote into a new unit, a Tier 4 shock unit, the Knight. This is the only way to acquire Knights, as they cannot be built directly, making them rare and valuable assets to your kingdom. This is an interesting approach. The Knight themselves are incredibly powerful, though, so I suspect the feudal culture is really going to enjoy bonuses to experience, which it itself provides. I'm sure they'll talk about it. Longbow for the monarchy subculture. Got a dog. Primal Furry. A powerful ranged unit with an exceptionally long reach. Not only do their base attacks have additional reach thanks to their longbow trait, they also have access to a long shot ability, a powerful full-action shot that reaches out to a whopping 7 tiles away. This range advantage lets them support even an aggressive cavalry charge and take down high-value targets that other ranged units would struggle to strike. Yep. And to make things better, we'll see this later on, but their champion rank gives them an additional +1 range. 8-tile range is the Eldritch Sovereign attack, so they can become veritable artillery units. And then, of course, you go Tome of Winds and get +1 on top of that. Liege Guard of the aristocracy subculture. These things are insanely good. The Liege Guard are guardians of their Liege Lord, sturdy and uncomplicated shield units, retaining the heavy shield property of their lesser colleagues and uniquely having the Sworn Bond ability. The Liege Guard is the ideal protector of your valuable heroes, able to suck up damage that would otherwise lay their mighty lord low and strengthen them in the process. This, I think, is what makes them so strong. You link to the target-friendly hero. Damage sustained by the linked unit is transferred to this unit with a 50% reduction. At the start of each turn, the linked unit gains strengthened. This is going to enable so much diving hero shenanigans. I have schemes. Great schemes. The Tier 4 Knight. Yes, you see that correctly. That is a cultural Tier 4 unit, the first of its kind and hopefully not the last. The Knight is an archetype that we wanted to do more justice, especially for the feudal culture where it is so quintessential. The Knight is uncomplicated but potent, only accessible by the promotion of an aspirant Knight unit. It retains the slippery trait of its squires but gains Giant Slayer in addition, ensuring that the valiant Knight may be the one to strike down the beast. Knights also gain Graceful Charge, letting them take engagements other shock units would potentially avoid. Lastly, Inspiring Killer lets them grant more morale for any opponent they would successfully bring low. This is a 2-model unit. Okay. Subculture Monarchy. Your rule is absolute. That's right. The people follow their monarch and fight to defend them and their kingdom. Monarchy subculture is relatively uncomplicated, serving as a good introduction to the game while supporting the classic Kingdom fantasy. When playing as Monarchy, all your units gain For the Monarch, a simple but always welcome boost to their effectiveness as long as they are within the kingdom's borders or fighting in battle alongside their beloved monarch. You do not have to be in the same stack to gain this benefit, so the 3 stacks of Doom following the monarch will all gain +1 defense and +1 resistance, plus 10% damage, and plus 10 morale. Very good. And you can spread this to fights where the monarch is not present. We'll probably get to that. In addition, the monarch's own army follows them without question, requiring no upkeep for the privilege. This lets the monarch field expensive units earlier and from a powerful early economy. So the monarch's dominion, the unit is the absolute monarch of their faction. In combat, activates For the Monarch on the friendly units, and while army leader, all units in the army For the Monarch cost minus 100% unit upkeep. With For the Monarch. I see. Okay. I wonder what this is gonna prevent. Does this mean I can't have dragons that are free? That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a Giant King leading 5 enslaved. I mean, indentured? That's still pretty bad. Just 5 dragons that totally willingly wanted to follow their archenemy. You know? Monarchy additionally has access to the Tier 3 Longbow unit, a powerful ranged unit that their archers are able to promote into if their service proves valuable enough. City structures also vary for the Monarchy. The workshop and the blacksmith are replaced with the militia barracks and the royal smith, respectively, each granting additional stability to reinforce the monarch's rule. A unique structure replacing the lord's manor is the retainer's estate, granting a powerful economic benefit as long as the city is connected to the throne city's domain. Metropolitan society, double dipping, let's go. So while the city shares a border with the throne city, or is the throne city, plus 20 food income, plus 10 gold income, plus 10 city stability income. Add 10% to all of this for Metropolitan Society. The special province improvement is the farmstead and is shared amongst both subcultures, and provides a very effective source of food for monarchs or lieges who wish to grow their population rapidly. A farm SPI plus 15 food income plus 5 food per adjacent farm counts as a farm. Must be built on an acquired province, of course, at tier 2. Nature is going to go hard with the feudal culture. Here's their book. Yes, every culture has a book, although you never see it unless you open the encyclopedia. Why would I do that? Monarchy features 3 skills, 2 of which are shared with the aristocracy as well, and will be explained below. The Call to Glory is available to both feudal subcultures and provides a battlefield-wide bonus to morale over the course of 3 turns. The seemingly small bonus stacks up rapidly with the amount of units it affects. I took a screenshot of this, and thankfully the part I took a screenshot of is not in this picture. So don't worry, it's going to be great. For 3 turns, all friendly units gain +1 morale at the start of your turn. This is a battlefield enchantment, so it kind of just goes on, and I think it's going to be very strong. If it all works together how I'm expecting it to. Call Militia has been discussed in the militia unit section. Suffice to say, it is a cheap, gold-costing, strategic summon spell that can only target friendly cities. It costs gold instead of mana to cast? Did I just ignore that in the dev stream? I might have. This gives a quick influx of expendable tier 1 militia units to defend your kingdom or rapidly replace losses during your campaigns. The important distinction here is this can only be summoned on cities, not on heroes. Lastly, uniquely for the Monarchy subculture, there is the Monarch's Decree, a combat enchantment that lets the units on the battlefield know they fight with the blessing of their monarch, activating for the monarch for 2 turns as though the monarch themselves were on the field. A useful tool for when the monarch is busy elsewhere. I'm pretty sure that if you're playing as Monarchy, you 100% upkeep on this in armies that the monarch is absent in. Subculture Aristocracy. The lords and ladies muster on the fields of battle, their house banners flying high over their armies, each ready to follow their ruler's house to war. The aristocracy subculture places emphasis on each house and their own armies, with each of your liege lords fielding their own army to take the field in your name. Playing a feudal aristocracy is a balancing act, requiring investment in multiple cities and balancing the capability of each city to recruit and field their own house armies which follow their lord or lady into battle. In the most simple of gameplay terms, this functions as the following. Each feudal city in your empire has its own feudal house, led by that city's governor who becomes its liege lord. Units produced in these cities become part of that feudal house, gaining experience as their liege lord gains renown. When a unit is in battle with the liege lord of its house, it gains powerful bonuses that scale with their liege lord's renown. The basic effect this has is that your heroes become much more important, since their renown improves their army as well as the city they govern. Match each liege lord with an army of their house and reap the benefits. House Boren doesn't have a boar picture? Unplayable. There is a boar picture though, so it's saved, I guess. The newly founded House Boren of Castellan is led by its liege lord, Isidore the Merciless. Okay. Missed opportunity to call it Isildur. When you first assign a governor to a city, the new house is born. It's given a name and banner that you can edit at any time to make them what you want them to be. Note that any units produced in that city before this point will still join the house, so you don't need to wait with starting to draft your new house's army. These are just all the icons from when you make your culture. You can change the name, emblem, and secondary color of any house at any time to be what you design. The banner and sigil of the house will be visible in the army panel as well as on that city, letting you easily match which units follow which ruler. Also neat little detail is that it calls out which house the army belongs to. Get the stack here. Instead of saying your capital city, it says the house. Does it say which city individually, or is it always... I thought it said army of, like, insert your god here. That's what it does. The liege lords give benefit to both their own army and any units of their house that may join them on the field of battle. Units in their army that share the same house gain increased regeneration and reduced upkeep, while any unit of their house in battle alongside their liege lord gains increased max HP and morale. Both of these benefits increase as the liege lord gains higher renown levels, so show your lieges the way to glory, and they will bring you victory. So I think what this is saying is you could be super lazy still. At least for like 3 stacks. And have all of them produced from the capital. And just, walk them around with your Gautier. Even if the hero is another hero is leading it, I'm not sure. Testing required. Which, by the way, you can test this right now, I think, on the Steam Open Beta. This is part of the Ogre update. The Feudal House mechanic has a bunch of complicated rules under the hood that you won't have to know of as intimately. We'll call it a few here regardless, since they were explicitly included in this design to make the experience as natural as possible. But here's the Liege Lord trait. This hero is the Liege Lord of their house, granting them and house units in their army minus 10% unit upkeep, heal, plus 5 hit points per world map. Okay, so for this part, you don't get the stack. If you have a hero leading like your capitals stuff. But I think this part would work. In battle, they and all units of their house gain plus 10 hit points and plus 5 morale. So there is some already discussion about how powerful this might be. Because at Renown 4, the max, this is minus 40% unit upkeep, which by the way does stack with other forces of other sources of unit upkeep reduction. This goes up to plus 20, I believe. And then in battle, this is plus 40 hit points and plus 20 morale. So I got a few comments already about how this might be a little tuned too high. But it's an easy fix, so just drop the numbers a little bit. We'll see. Leave your feedback. Also me, I can't do anything. So the logic here, summon units and units gained through pickups or events join the house of the nearest non-scout-led army. If the unit is summoned in the domain of a city, it will always join that city's house instead. Units recruited through the rally of lieges join the house of the city they were sent to, letting you reinforce your noble houses through your vassals. This is a new mechanic, and we got to see it yesterday. If a house or city is lost, captured by the enemy, or destroyed, it remains the home of that house and must be retaken if they are to gain new members. Oh. The Liege Lord and their units remain, however, and still get the benefits from fighting alongside their Liege Lord, letting them quest to retake their ancestral home. Even if another empire absorbs it, as long as you retake it and absorb it once again, the house is restored. Interesting. Okay. If a Liege Lord is replaced, the city and units of that city will suffer a stability/morale penalty for a few turns as they adjust to the sudden change in leadership. Note that a hero remains the Liege Lord even in death, in case they are revived. They have to be actively replaced should you wish to do so. Oh, okay. So you won't suffer the penalty, but the governor is removed upon death. Removed. Interesting. The Liege Lords themselves benefit from the morale and HP bonus they grant their house as they gain renown. Really? Okay. Units built in a city before it has its governor assigned, and thus founds the house, are still assigned to that house. It just is not visible until the house is founded. Thus, units built in a house city before the house is founded will still join that house as one would expect. These rules are complicated if you go into depth, but as a player, you will not have to think of these. The experience should work as you expect it to, supporting the fantasy of a kingdom of noble houses. Naturally. Yeah, watching they're playing the aristocracy in the dev stream and just watching it's like, stuff just happens. Really no thought required. Except for trying to the thought that's required is just macro controlling which heroes, get which units and whatnot. Economically, the aristocracy subculture leans more into food and draft than the monarchy does, since they want to get new cities up and running quickly to field their house armies. They have alternate structures for the storehouse and the granary, the house hunting grounds, and the serf quarters, each giving draft in addition to the regular food benefit, to help the house field its new army quickly. The unique structure is a redesign of the old feudal Lord's Manor. So the new Lord's Manor for the aristocracy, for each level of renown the governor has, the city gains plus 10 food, plus 10 draft, plus 5 city stability. So again at max renown, this is plus 40 food, plus 40 draft, and plus 20 city stability. This is quite a hefty bonus for a renowned governor, befitting their status as the house's liege lord. Here is their unique tome. Might have to remember to keep this. Aristocracy shares most of its research skills with the monarchy, but uniquely has access to Hold the Line. Friendly units in 1 hex radius for 1 turn gain defensive masters and charge resistance. This is a unique buff spell, letting you prepare for an incoming charge or otherwise augment your defense for the upcoming enemy turn, while still dishing out the damage with your units. And that should be it for the Feudal culture. They are relatively straightforward in both their units and mechanics, and should reward a playstyle that leans into their themes. If you wish to create an equivalent to Rohan, the Kingdoms of Westeros, a classical fantasy kingdom, or anything in between or beyond, this should be the culture for you. I sincerely hope you enjoy playing with it and find your conquest interesting. May your reign be prosperous. Next week we will take another peek into Boss's mind as he elaborates on the lava and underground gameplay updates. All of that, and this Feudal rework, will be available in the Ochre update. If you play the game through Steam, there is currently an open beta available if you wish to give it a try early. Otherwise, you won't have to be patient for too long, as it is releasing for everybody for free alongside the Giant Kings on April 1st. And no, it is not an elaborate April Fool's joke. Will I make that joke every time? Possibly. Possibly I will. So I suspect the new Feudal culture is going to be very strong. I was even, while watching the stream, contemplating a new goat run. We might need the goat to return. But as always, you can let me know what you think as we move on to the second half of the video. It's time to break down the developer livestream. And once again, if you would like to watch it for yourself, you can do so in the video description below. So we're starting off. This is where we're starting, right? Oh. We're starting off looking at the Heroes Memorial. Just another quick look. We did talk about this landmark last time, so this is the starting point. Here it is again. Just beautiful. They found 1.5 more landmarks. They said that there are 3, typically 3 per realm. They come in like pairs of 3, which is not what a pair is, but that's okay. Their Giant King reached level 8, meaning they unlocked their second signature skill. These are all runes that help in combat. The Cascading rune, killing a unit causes 15 lightning damage to up to 2 other enemy units within 2 hexes. So there's more free chaining. I do note the signature skills, the upgrades, the skills they unlock are the same as usual. There's no special like transformations or unique skills a la Dragon King, Dragon Lords, and the Eldritch Sovereigns. The Fury rune gains very fast movement. This is the Chaos one. Very fast movement, gain a stack of Strength and Fortune for 3 turns when it uses an attack ability, which sounds crazy. That sounds crazy. A very fast Giant King. It's like a Space Marine almost. The Brawn rune is the Materia rune, which unlocks the Mighty Stomp ability. This is a 1 AP, 22 physical damage, deals damage to units in a 2-hex cone. It has Frenzy. I think that's from this particular Giant King. Stunned, Flanker, Bleeding, and Immobilize. I'm not sure which of those are native and which one of those are because of their Giant King's equipment, but there it is. The Life rune grants Undying, which is pretty appropriate for a Dragon King, sort of reawakened from the ancient past. The Order rune is the Safeguard rune. When this unit goes below 60% of its maximum hit points, it gains 3 stacks of bolstered defense for 3 turns, 3 stacks of bolstered resistance for 3 turns, and gains 5 temporary hit points per stack of bolstered defense and bolstered resistance. I assume that triggers after the buffs are gained. So this is basically their version of Draconic Fury. Surprise. Also synergizes quite well with the Materium culture, or the Industrious culture. And last but certainly not least, the Shadow rune is the Disruption rune, where base attacks have a base 60% chance of inflicting Disrupted for 2 turns, and attacks deal plus 30% damage to magical origin units. Disruption is, of course, very annoying as it just disables all enchantment. Super tilting. This is kind of on the weaker side, though, but remember, a lot of the Giant King base attacks are kind of like AoE-ish, so could be strong. For their leveling up this stream, they went over to the unique Giant King tree with the runes, and they hovered over a few of them. I got them in like 2 parts for some reason. But the Rune of Creation, Storm. So tell me what this needs to be put on. Probably a miscellaneous item. Summon a full action, 20 lightning damage. Summon a Crystal Pillar on target hex, and then deal damage to a unit within 4 hexes and afflict it with a volatile charge. This is another combat summon. that shoots things. The Rune of Command Storm is, I believe this is also a miscellaneous infusion. While army leader, all non-hero units in the army gain +2 resistance. I assume these are all unique to the Giant King, or the Storm King, and they're different for the variants. I know the weapons and whatnot are. So they located the transmitter. The transmitter is one of the... Did they get the biggest change? The Battle Mages got a lot of a look over, and the transmitters, I think, got the biggest change, because they were kind of... So their basic attack, Molten Bolts, now deals physical and fire damage, and has a 30% chance of inflicting Gilded for 1 turn. The very low chance, but of course this stacks with all sorts of enchantments. They have the lightning thing on right now. And their special ability, Transmute, is now 3 AP, 6 range, 12 physical, 12 fire. In a 1 hex radius, they take that damage, and gain center defense for 3 turns, if successful. This will grant bolstered defense for 3 turns to all friendly units within 2 hexes of the caster, and is being buffed by Electrified. So these are being affected by enchantments. Okay, that's crazy, not gonna lie. And once the Transmuter reaches champion rank, the Transmute will also now gain a 60% chance of inflicting Gilded to enemies. I think Transmuter could be like the best battle mage now, which is quite the drastic change. They used to be so mediocre, especially for a tier 4 unit. This is they're recruiting the Transmuter, and this just shows the fact that you can send the Valley of Leeches units now to any of your cities instead of just your capital. I believe this is just a baseline feature now, not specifically for the feudal culture. Anyone can do this, I think. They were reinforcing their main army, and I noticed there was some winding diggy. And I don't think this used to be generated. I think this is a new underground generation and opened up a shortcut. So I hope there's lots of these and we're not just being boxed in by Bedrock in the future. They went ahead and did the Raiders of the Deep minor transformation. Enchantment. There's a hedgehog here. That's what it looks like. They get a little torch that follows them around. It gives them cave walk and lets them, move through the underground better, but it also gives plus 10% damage when you're above ground. So it's still worth casting even if you are not like Giga Underground. They show off the Gold Seeker's, a few things here actually. The Gold Seeker's pickaxe is a one-handed weapon, and its special stick is that on combo, so the third strike in a turn has a base 60% chance to inflict Gilded, which is kind of crazy. Lots of Gilded synergy finally. The Litharine Needler is here. Oh, I tried to take a screenshot of the Spear Boy. Don't worry, we'll see him later. But the tier 3 unit for the Litharine is a spear. So, here's when they were hovering over some of the later stuff. This is, I believe, the Apex purchase. Unlocks the Eternal Studies in your cities, which converts the city's production into knowledge, which is amazing. Of course, this means you can't produce anything, but once you reach the late stages of the game, you don't need to produce anything. And by the sound of this is the 1-to-1. Also worth noting, there's some red text here they did not talk about. But it says this artifact was already bought by a player. I believe artifacts can be stolen when you defeat an enemy player. So, go find out who has it and bonk them. I'm not sure if this means it's unavailable for anybody else. I'm assuming so, because it's red. Red is typically bad. The Litharine Simulacrum is the mythic unit for the Litharine, and you can purchase one, which is pretty cool. There is, if you do attack the Crystal Dwelling, there is a unique boss hero thing that you cannot obtain, just like with the Umbral Demons. But this one is very spicy. Very spicy. The Eternal Gold Seeker's pickaxe is a stronger variant of the pickaxe, and tier 4. This has the Golden Curse, so it's very much like the Golden Golems. Enemy melee attacks have a base 60% chance of becoming Gilded. Additionally, Gilded has a base 30% chance of being applied just for attacking, and the combo has been increased to a 90% chance. This could be really good. Really good. Diggy dig. The Litharine Prism is an artifact at tier 2, which looks crazy. Your cities gain plus 20 city stability if you have an Order Affinity Tome in your library. plus 10 food if you have a Nature Affinity Tome, plus 10 gold if you have a Materium Tome, plus 10 draft for a Chaos Tome, plus 10 knowledge for a Shadow Tome, plus 10 mana for an Astral Tome. And for dual Affinity Tomes, these bonuses are halved. This kind of encourages you to spread out your research a little bit. And you could use the Litherine Scroll to get plus 1 affinity of everything. It won't count for this, I don't believe. But it can kind of help you push you to the next tier while you're spreading out. And again, this artifact was already bought by another player. I'm assuming that means it's unavailable. They were talking about destroying these crystal dwellings. But Thomas wants to fight them, basically. And he said you get something... Like, you can just get these at random when you destroy them, but it is random, so you're not sure if you would get them. I'm not sure if that's just the artifact or any of this stuff. We'll see. The Crystallized Essence is a healing spell. Revive target non-Litherine, non-hero unit as a Litherine of its tier. If victorious in combat, units revived can be kept for a mana cost. Okay. Interesting. Could be an easy way to get the Simulacrum. The Crystal Focus is a unit enchantment. Base magic attacks of the enchanted units, battle mages and supports, have a 60% chance of applying a volatile charge. This is the Litherine mechanic, where a unit will explode for 8 physical and 8 lightning damage. They very briefly hovered over these, so I had to catch them by pausing. I see all. I miss it sometimes, but these are the Eternal Shatter Blades, so the tier 4 ranger weapon, 10 physical, 10 lightning, with volatile charge application at 60%, and you can throw the Seeking Shadow Blade, which I would imagine can do volatile charge. The Crystal Crash is a combat spell, a damage debuff spell. Units in a 1 hex radius sustain 15 physical damage and 15 lightning damage, and have a base 90% chance of inflicting volatile charge 2 turns. This is the effect going on passively in the Fabled region they're taking on. The Dungeon Hazard is a combat spell from the Tome of the Dungeon, where target enemy army, so it's a world spell, sustains 15 physical damage, doubled if cast on a dungeon province. And they become slowed for 1 world map turn. You know what that means. A retaliation. The downside, of course, means they're going to be slow approaching you in combat, but maybe it's worth it if you're being aggressive. So here's the Litherine Shard Lancers. These are, again, the tier 3 Spear Boys for the Litherine. They have a repeating attack, of course, for their polearm, with a 60% chance of inflicting volatile charge. This is also in the big, spooky, Fated region. And they have the Pinning Thrust, which is a 1 AP, 12 damage, physical, and lightning, which deals damage to enemy units in a 2 hex line, and has a guaranteed chance to inflict Immobilize. These guys could be really good. Could be really strong. They gave their giant a bit of a run for the money. But the giant was protected by the Liege Guard, which is why I think the Liege Guard's going to be very good. This is the Volatile Charge. On expiration, this unit and adjacent friendly units sustain 8 physical damage and 8 lightning damage. And here is the Call to Glory. So the reason why I took this picture is because it is labeled as Nature, Materium, and Order. Does that mean the magnifier lens will work with it? Or the amplifier lens, whatever it's actually called. It does say combat enchantment instead of buff, debuff. What about the other one? I got the other one, right? Hold the Line is a buff spell. Nature and Order. So at the very least, this one should work. The other one up in the air because it's a combat enchantment instead of like a buff spell, but if it did work with the Order lens amplifier thing, that would be fortune to your whole army, which would be pretty crunk. This is the Litherine Shard Lancer, and Crystal Reflection says non-melee attacks are reflected back at the attacker for 20% of the damage. Am I crazy? Was this always non-melee? I thought this was magical. But, hey, there it is. So, go punch these things. You'll do better than shooting them. Here is the Rune of Protection for the Storm, which I believe is applied to armor. +1 resistance, +3 lightning resistance, and status effective immunity electrified. I think we did see this in the dev diary for the Giant Kings. Like the very first one, the reveal, but hey, I caught a screenshot of it. And here they are putting it into a crown. They tried to gear out their Giant King, because they had the resources. And this is the Crystal Pillar. It has 35 HP. It shoots people with volatile blasts. Easy. So longbow, again, we got the picture here because they gain the Eagle Eye Champion medal, which gives them an absolutely obscene amount of range, and long live the archer build. It'll never die. Shoot bow is, it says 5 range with +1 range down here, so is that actually 6, or? Not sure. Not sure. And there's the long shot. Big damage. It also tells you now the casualties that you've taken. So casualty taken, damage reduced by 33%. They're at like half health. So that makes them a 3 model unit. They encountered a unique event for the Giant King. They were talking to an ogre that was sitting on one of their nodes. And just like with the Dragon Lords, this is a primal check at 8. So I believe this is the level of the Giant King. They had a 70% chance. The big folk should build an empire together. They succeeded this roll, which gave them 600 production to their capital city. And of course, the army disappeared. We not slaves. If you fail, you get attacked. And you gain 2 stacks of primal exhaustion. I wonder what that is. Here is the knight. They're dealing 13 damage at with a 67% casualty reduction. So, math is scary, but that's a lot of damage. Graceful charge, inspiring killer, slippery. These things are terrifying. Here is one of the natural regions, the handmade natural regions they found underground. Looks nice. There's statues. It's pretty. And they found another landmark, the Giant Bane Fields, underground, actually very close to the Crystal Dwelling. Provinces adjacent to this landmark gain +10 draft. If souls are obtainable, this province grants +2 souls. I'm assuming per turn. The Undying Battlefield Combat Enchantment, which we do go over, I believe. And a city with 3 provinces adjacent to this landmark gain tier 1 units, have their recruitment costs reduced by 25% in the city, and if souls are obtainable, unlocks recruitment of tier 1 skeleton units. As a necromancer, you can just pump out skeleton. The Undying Battlefield, every turn, each corpse is resurrected as a random skeleton unit with Berserk. Skeleton units themselves are not resurrected by this effect, are non-vital, and die at the end of combat. This can actually be not great if you're doing a necromantic build. Actually, any build. Because then you can't resurrect people. But it could also be funny. At the very end of the stream, they got to the Pantheon upgrades. We have a new little tree here. Just a baby tree, like the previous DLC expansion. Starting us off strong with the Cavern Bear, a new mount customization option for your race and ruler, and it is, indeed, a honey badger. Ah, the memes, I can see them already. There are 4 new banner icons, all of which are associated with each of the Giant King clans. So there's Rock, Storm, Fire, and Frost. They didn't really hover them, there's not really a point. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new weapons. Magma Orb is here for spellcasters, and we'll get to that in a moment. They went back to it. The Goldseeker's Pickaxe and Shield is here. This gives you the Industrious Shield, so nothing too exciting. But the Goldseeker's Pickaxe allows you to start with the chance to guild stuff. We already saw one, so I guess I didn't take a screenshot. This one is terrifying, I think. The Giant Slayer's Spear, excuse me. This is where the image comes from with the teeth on it. The Raking. This is a basic polearm with Giant Hunter. So when striking a large target unit, they gain Fortune for 3 turns. And of course, it's a repeating weapon, so you can full stack your Fortune in 1 turn. Which is terrifying. The Titan's Great Bow is a new, technically a new bow type, Boss was saying. It has more damage, but it has reduced accuracy, so it's at 70% baseline. And it has a combo where the 3rd strike in a turn pushes the target back by 1 hex. That's quite interesting. Takes people longer to get to you. There is Butt Stallion, the Crystal Runner. This is a crystal horse that can be given to your ruler in your race. And then we get to the Litherite Orb, which you can now start with. The tooltip is bugged for both the Magma Orb and this, but on this screen specifically, I think. This does lightning damage, isn't it? Both lightning and physical, and units summoned by the wielder of this weapon gain volatile summons. When this unit dies, it deals 8 physical damage or 8 lightning damage to all adjacent enemy units. So if you give this to a ritualist who's focused on summoning things, you can just run them in with reckless abandon, and they'll explode. Which sounds like a lot of fun, honestly. You can start with Shatter Blades, which is, of course, the sword and the kunai-looking thing, with a chance to apply a volatile charge. Now, you can, because these are in the Pantheon, I think they have to be unlocked first. Once you unlock them, these will be in the Item Forge's blueprint, so you can make higher tiers of them. I don't know if that will make their passives better. Like the Eternal Shatter Blades, whatever, had a 90% chance to inflict volatile charge. Would a tier 4 Shatter Blades you made have a 90% chance to inflict volatile charge, or would it just do more damage? I don't know. This is the new society trait. There is only one this time. The Subterranean Society. They know the earth like no other, favoring the depths of the realm to the turbulent surface. Underground passages grant +2 Imperium. This is the pathway to the overground and the underground. So this won't be a lot of Imperium. It'll be some Imperium. Underground cities gain +20% food income. And excavation of underground provinces has a chance of uncovering an additional resource node. They say that this is a 30% chance, with a 10% chance for each of the items. So would that actually end up being a 30% chance? It's a 10% chance for a gold node, 10% chance for a mana node, 10% chance for the iron node. So maybe it's 30%? I don't know. Math. In our backup up, the Magma Orb. This is pure fire damage, I believe. But it has rampant fire. So when it shoots something, the target hex will turn on fire. So boss said, even if you miss, like if you if you graze or just miss the target, an adjacent hex will be on fire. And my immediate thought was Cleansing Flame. Cleansing Flame with a Magma Orb. That'd be really fun. Of course, if you go Scions of Flame, you also are immune to burning hexes, so. And Fiend, right? Fiend is immune? I think they're both immune. And that was the last one. So let me grab my handy-dandy notebook, which I organized better this time. So, these are things that were just mentioned in the dev stream. I didn't really have any pictures. Stacks. If your city is besieged, your units cannot run away. But stacks can still be teleported out of besieged cities. So if you have Recall Ruler, teleports, a hero, or mass recall or something, you can still escape from cities if you feel like you're going to die. They mentioned that Fire Giant Kings may or may not have a spawning bias towards desolation and or lava, like the Desolation adaptation. Boss wasn't entirely sure. Maybe they do. Dungeon terrain can stack with other forms of terraforming that are naturally found within the underground, so like ice, which I guess is new, but ice, desolation, forest probably, can stack with the underground. Or dungeon, excuse me. Swamp battle maps have more planks, because players were spawning in the water. I think I've done that before too. And so they were reworked a little bit to generate more planks and places to stand without getting wet. Fated regions come in pairs of 3. And the river cannot appear underground, so they recommended, if you want to do a bunch of underground stuff, maybe don't be a Storm Giant King. You can do whatever you want, as always. And that, my friends, was the 3rd Dev Diary and Dev Stream for the Giant Kings. It's shaping up to be quite the update. After all, my patch notes video was like an hour and 40 minutes long. So, take that for what you will. As always, you can test out the open beta right now if you would like, if you own the game on Steam. And I will be there day 1, April 1st. This is not an April Fool's joke. With a new series. So thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you to patrons and the channel members support channel. I greatly appreciate you. If you'd like to stay up on the channel, feel free to join the description down below. And I will see you next week for the 4th Dev Diary and Dev Stream.